All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the 311th ESC's podcast. I am Captain William Stroud, your host. Many of you may not see Sergeant Kanangwe here, but he is actually behind the scenes doing the great work to keep everything going. But I do have some extra special guests today that I'm happy to have on the show with me. First and foremost, I want to thank our main guest of the night, and that is CSM Kristy Hawkins. CSM, thanks for being here.
Well, it's an honor to be here. Actually, I'm excited to do this with you guys and explain part of where I grew up and how I got to where I'm at, and more involvement with the 311th.
Awesome. And we have another guest, and that is Ms. Bobo of our G8 as the Resource Managing Officer.
That's right. I am also honored to be here, also as the first sergeant for the 693rd Quartermaster Company underneath your wonderful 304th 155 CSSB. And I look forward to hearing more of your perspective, CSM, on leadership and resource management.
Awesome. And then finally, we have Massarn Madison. Massarn, welcome first to the 311th ESC. I know you've been here for a short period of time. And
Absolutely.
now you're part of the G4 shop.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I'm excited to be here, be a part of the team. And I look forward to this podcast. This is my first podcast.
First podcast?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Now you're going to be famous. Now you're going to watch your Instagram feed just go up. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? As soon as you...
I'll be signing that autographs.
That's
later.
all right.
Later. Yeah, right.
We'll get it. Well, hey, I'm excited to have you ladies on the show with me. It's always fun. And we finally have an actual set now, which is pretty cool. You know, Sergeant K's worked really hard to get this thing set up and conceptualize it. And we did it under very, budget constraints. So we made it good. We got the camo nets and everything. So I think it's pretty cool. But, thank you all for being on the show with me. So without further ado, we're going to kick it off. CSM, welcome.
Well, thank you. I was a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh, get a microphone in front of me again.
Yeah.
Here we go. But I really been listening to a lot of the other podcasts, and I enjoyed listening to them. So I really appreciate the invite, so I could, somewhat share my story along with, the great leaders that are sitting to my left in front of me.
Yeah.
So
Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
So I am from South Dakota. And so I grew up there. I left there once I joined the Marine Corps. But before I did that, I was raised on a farm. So I did dairy. I was we were dairy farmers. So getting up early in the morning, milking cows, and going to, before I could go to any activities at night, I had to milk cows and then go to my activities. So, and we did a lot of farming. So I grew up that way. And then I went to college, and I wasn't sure what I really wanted to do. But while I was in high school, they always had the recruiters that came in. And I just saw them, bringing in their motivational movies. And, it's like, oh, I want to join, right? At that time, I just didn't have the ambition to join. So I did a year of college. I do have an aunt and uncle that are a year older than me. And so my uncle and a friend that I graduated with joined the Marine Corps, and I had an older uncle that was in the Marine Corps as well. So I thought, well, if I'm going to join a branch, that's probably the one that I'm going to join. So they joined in May, like the middle of May. I joined at the end of May, and I had the delay entry, so I came in August. So from then on, my mom was just like, "What did you do? Like, you can get out of this." I'm like, "No, I don't want to get out of this. Like, this is really what I want to do." And I said, if I'm going to join the tougher forces. So in that way, if I decide I'm going to get out, then I don't have to go to boot camp again.
Yeah.
So that's my thinking back at, when I was 18. So I went on and did supply in the Marine Corps. But actually, it was supply warehouse. But then when I went over to Okinawa, they pulled me into the fiscal. So I did all the fiscal. And so then when I went back to stateside, they pulled me into the warehouse again, but only for like 2 months. And they said, "Wait, you know fiscal?" I was like, "Yes, I do." So they brought me back in the office, but I never gained that MOS. So I really didn't do my job in the Marine Corps. I did a different one, which is good. But I served over in Okinawa, and I was in the Philippines for about a year, and then Camp Lejeune.
Nice.
And then, it was my time to get out. And I thought, all right, I guess that's a thing to do. So because we didn't really have a lot of people who came and talked to you and saying, hey, what are you going to do with your career? And so I just got out. And then when I got back home, I thought, well, they talked about the reserves, so maybe I'll look in the reserves. And that was 3 hours away from my home of record for the Marine Reserves. And I thought, and the other one was 4 hours. I thought, geez, at 22, I didn't think anything. I was like, oh, that's kind of far. Now I'm like, South Dakota to LA, that's far.
Yeah.
So I didn't join then, but then I went to school, I went to college for cardiovascular tech. And I've worked in that field. And I went to Mayo, Rochester, Minnesota. And so while I was in Rochester, Minnesota, I was working and there was like a few veterans there. And one of them actually was still serving in the Army Reserve. And so he's like, hey, why don't you come and check out our unit? I was like, okay, sure. So I did, and it was a medical unit. And I thought, all right. So I went to the recruiter, and so I joined the Army Reserve. So I had a 7-year break. So I got out of the Marine Corps, had a 7-year break. 'Cause I still had that desire to serve our country, right? I still had it. And so when we were always talking about it, because that's what we do as veterans, we always talk about our careers, and we always tell stories, and that's how I started rethinking about coming back into the reserves or some branch.
Yeah.
And so that's how I ended up going into the Army Reserve. Somebody that I worked with said, hey, come on board. So I did, joined in as a medic.
Okay.
And
68 whiskey at the
it's
time.
68,
Right?
60, actually it was a 91 Bravo.
Okay.
And then transitioned to 91 whiskey, then on to 68.
68 whiskey.
Yeah, I think that was the numbers that it went to. But so yeah, I did that, and I haven't looked back. So that was in 2000, and I've been in for 25 years in the Army Reserve.
Wow.
So, but the big kicker was I had to start back over again because I had a 7-year break.
Yeah,
So
go to
my
basic
IRR
training.
time, no, I didn't have to go to basic training, but I had to start my ranking over again.
Oh,
So
okay.
I came out as a E4 and I came back in the Army as a E2. So I had to start back as a private again. And so, but I gained it all back and got to where I am. So
Definitely. How has your leadership style kind of adapted over those years to where you see where you started? And where you are today?
Well, one, it was kind of funny when I came into the Army. Somehow I maxed everything, and they're all like, "Wait a second, how do you do that?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just focus on this blade of grass," and they're just like, "What?" And so I still had that mentality or that discipline still from the Marine Corps when I came into the Army. And of course, being in a medical unit, they always called each other by their first name. And I'm like, whoa, this is not, so that was a struggle, right? And getting to know the Army lingo, because when you go to basic, you learn the Army lingo.
Right.
And so I kept asking, I'm like, when is the Army's birthday? And they all looked at me like, I don't know. I'm like, what? You guys don't celebrate it? Because the Marine Corps, I mean, that's what they do. They do the Marine Corps Ball every year. So we knew, that was a great honor to celebrate every year. And so these were things that I was like learning over as I was growing into a soldier. And so then as I, moved on, I just learned from others. Like, I just was always asking questions because I didn't know about the Army. So as I would go to different locations, I'd just say, hey, can you teach me your job? Like, and so then you kind of looked at the leaders that you want to emulate and those that like, no, I'm going to stay out of that lane, right? So I just kind of focused towards those that helped me throughout my career. And I had some great ones. And the funny thing is I met up with the first one when I went into my move back to Sioux Falls. I was in Rochester and I moved back to Sioux Falls. And that unit is a training unit, so the 91st, right? We know the 91st. And so I got to meet some people that I worked with there, and we got mobilized right away. And so, of course, I'm in the regs, because every time I'd ask a question, they're like, well, go in the reg and tell me what it is. Oh, that takes time, right? It does take time, but I learned. And so with that leadership telling me, I can give you the answer, but I don't want to give you the answer. I want you to look it up. And so
Absolutely.
I got into that mentality. And then by the end of that MOB, they're like, we can see you as a sergeant major. Because then I started like, hey, what do you think this is? What do you think this is? And, and then I started, I didn't realize it, but I was actually teaching and mentoring at an E4 level, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But again, I left out of the Marine Corps as a NCO, right? Because E4 is a NCO in the Marine Corps. So I didn't lose those styles or those, that type of leadership. And so I just kept on going because if I don't know it, somebody else might not know it. So I want to share it as much as I possibly can. And that's what I do now is if I learn something, I share it as soon as I can get it, right? Because if I'm learning at my level, then you probably don't know it. And so if I say, hey, if I teach you something, I expect you to share it because then that way you're at least, mentoring some others down the lane.
What is something that I guess you would pour into a soldier that it was just prudent that you grasped, that you was like, I need to share this, or, that you can provide to a soldier?
So what was told to me was take every opportunity that comes your way because it might not be offered again. And so that was probably one of the first things that somebody told me when I started my Army career.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, but what I didn't know was, it actually, because you're adding to your resume. And that resume is what gets you promoted or gets you, the jobs that you're looking for within your Army career. And so, or people put you in those positions. Oh, well, you're gonna go to ASAP. Or you're gonna go this. And you're like, what?
Right.
Like, I don't know anything about it. No, but you're gonna learn. But I think you're a great you'd be a great advocate. I'm like, okay, if you think so.
Yeah.
I think the leaders that we have, they see the best quality in soldiers, right? And they know the ones that are go-getters, and they know the ones that, what? If I gave them assignment, they're going to excel at it. They may be the quiet one in the corner.
Absolutely.
But it's as leaders, picking those out and saying, I want to give you an opportunity.
Yes,
Right,
that
because I feel
goes.
like they don't really see it.
Yeah,
Right.
that goes
They don't
into
know.
getting to know your soldiers. You have to get to know your soldiers. You have to look and have that eye out for those high speed soldiers because one day, you're also mentoring and coaching and building someone that's one day going to be you.
Yeah.
And take your place.
I was talking to the recruiter down the hall, and I said, I don't know everything. And I said, I'm not going to tell you I know everything either. I said, but I know how to find the answer. And I said, it's really about that leadership of, identifying those, right? But you also have to, get back so that these guys can learn. And we actually realize it when we're out on annual training or any missions that we're doing. Our soldiers that you don't know what they do on the civilian side. And boy, do they shine when they're at annual training.
Yeah.
You got plumbers, you got electricians. And I was actually somewhere it was actually a bus driver. I got to tell you the story because it's logistical. So last week I was actually in Riverside and I saw a couple buses outside. It was a football team that came from Georgia and they were going to play football. So anyway, I ran into this driver on my way out and I said, hey, where are these guys from? And he's like, oh, from Georgia. And so we got to talking and he said, oh, I've hauled some soldiers before. And I said, oh yeah, how'd that go? He goes, well, we broke down. I said, oh yeah? I said, well, how'd that go? He goes, well, we ended up staying the night. He goes, but as soon as we broke down, I told him that we broke down. He goes, every single one of them was out there. They were, we had some mechanics on the bus and we were trying to figure out, and they said, oh, well, we just need this one piece. But they didn't have that piece,
Right.
but they identified what the issue was, but they ended up staying the night and, and they didn't growl, they didn't do anything, but they were helping this bus driver out. And he goes, it's crazy. He goes, here I am thinking that they're just soldiers that they're doing, I'm just hauling them from point A to point B and they're not going to help me. And here they are, they
Bringing outdoor skills.
yeah.
Jobs.
He goes,
yeah.
it was crazy. He goes, I'll haul them everywhere.
Yeah,
he can
yeah.
be in my back pocket as long as we have a toolbox, right?
I think that's the awesome thing about being in the reserves.
Yeah.
you know what you're getting, you know.
Right. And these young soldiers, they strive to do the teaching. And so I also just provide them, hey, I want a class on cold and heat injuries. And they're like, well, we don't know anything about it. And I said, I know, but you're going to research it and you're going to give a class, right? And they're like, okay. So they come up, they're like, hey, Sergeant Major, are you going to be in our class? I'm like, yeah. So they're excited because they don't get those opportunities. So I think as leaders, we need to identify and get these younger soldiers to teach.
I agree. I feel like that's how we grow, is being in uncomfortable positions and, you know, doing things outside the norm, outside of our, just our CMF.
I'm a medic, right? I'm a 90 or 68 whiskey, and I still maintain my license. Even as a sergeant major, we don't have to, but I do maintain it because my husband is I didn't even tell you about my family. Man, I just like went right into my career and like I didn't, so can we backtrack?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm married with my husband of, it'll be 28 years, November 1st. And we have two boys. Colt is our oldest. He is 27. He married Sindel last July. And we had a new grandbaby this July from them.
Yeah.
And then I have my youngest son, or our youngest son is 23, and that's Riker. And so they're both diesel mechanics. So I do have some mechanics in my family.
Nice.
Yeah. And, but yeah, no, they're doing well and I love them dearly. They tolerate me, I should say, with all of my traveling. But I do try to make it to the most important events that I possibly can. And my granddaughter was one of them. And that's why I wasn't at the ball, because I needed to be home. That was
Your first.
yes, our first, and they
Absolutely.
were not going to tell me what it was until I was there. So I was like, well, geez, I'm not going to wait 3 days, right?
Yeah.
So,
Gotta go.
but that is one lesson that I did learn, and I learned it the hard way was, when I was growing up in the Army till probably, I would say 5 years ago, I would always put the Army, right? Army, Army, Army. I still do a lot of Army work, but I know how to maintain my family life now, where before I was just a workaholic. And so that hindered my family quite a bit.
Right.
And those are some things that I wish I could have changed. But it still made me grow to where I'm at today too. But that life-work balance, right? And the CG really puts it out well. And he said, Sergeant Major, on Friday nights, it's family time. And then I knew that on Sundays, he always would have family time, and I was like, so I kind of like thought about it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start doing that, right? So that is kind of what I started incorporating with our family is, at least one night we'll, have supper or else,
Right.
spend time. But I mean, work-life balance
Right.
that we really need to figure out. And as
Absolutely.
young soldiers, it's hard for them to do that. And how do we teach people to do that balance? We can say it all day long, but how do we teach it?
Absolutely. I feel like growing up in the ranks, Sergeant Major, like I didn't really hear much about work-life balance until I became a senior leader. And so this is, and I'm like, wow, why, we never, it's work. It's
Yep.
work, So I like when they start pushing family first, family, take care of your family. I mean, because at the end of the day, when you retire, you know what I'm saying?
They're there.
They're there. Absolutely. They're there.
Very difficult to decide, what you can do and what you can't do when it, matters most family. What matters most family.
Yeah.
But we also made a commitment, and so how do you, manage?
Yeah.
It's very difficult at times, and so at times when we need the soldiers to get out there and we need them to focus, it's difficult if they're also focusing on what's going on back home. And so yeah, we definitely want to take into consideration that we're people.
What's it like being a new grandma?
Oh my gosh, it's exciting. It's so exciting. I never, everybody's like, oh, it just changes your world, right? And so it's like, yeah, but how does it? And when we got the call that morning, and we got to see her, and it was just like, oh my gosh, so this is what it feels like.
Right.
So I can't even tell you, explain to you how well it feels, but she's going to be 2 months, and yeah, she's just a highlight of all of us. So
Well, I mean, I know you're incredibly excited about it because every time I see you, you're like, look, 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 look. I think they say you're more excited about being a grandma than you are about being a mom sometimes, right? Because
yeah,
now it's like you hope you've done your best with your kids. And then now you get to be the non-biased party, and now you get to step back and watch it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then you have a much closer relationship,
It is.
So,
It's truly amazing, because you look at your sons, right? And sons, you're just like, oh, how are they going to be as parents? And then as soon as Colton Sindel had Henley, like it was just a world of difference. With Colt, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm a dad now, right? This is crazy. But to see him grow and shine and to now take on the role of dad is truly amazing. It's great to see. I grew up in South Dakota, like I had said earlier, but I am the oldest of 7 kids. So there's 4 boys and 3 girls, and the 3 of us girls joined the military. The boys did not. So I think that just kind of sets an example of, my sisters. And so they wanted to follow, I guess, in my footsteps. But the one thing they didn't follow is going into the Marine Corps first. So they just jumped right into to the Army. And one got out and she was a sergeant. And then the other one is still in and she's a master sergeant. And she actually serves underneath one of our sister divisions under the 79th. So I feel like that's just an important event in our lives.
certainly.
We never got to serve together, but we're actually closer now that we're in a type of unit that is similar.
I think going back, in order to create that space for us to be able to get to know our soldiers more, during battle assembly, it's always, hey, we got to stay on task, we got to get this done, meet expectations and meet mission. However, times that we can actually set aside outside of battle assembly, or utilizing time during battle assembly after the mission is over to be able to go and allow everyone to kind of unwind a little bit and do things with your soldiers so that you can be able to kind of have more time to build relationships with them. Section time, when your section time does not have to be in the office, or when you're on duty. It can
Right.
be outside of the building, outside, doing things like we used to do. We used to have to create fun things that would still contribute to our soldiering skills, but like paintball or
Yeah.
going out just to relax.
Team building
and
exercises, right?
Exactly. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I
And
think that
nothing's
we
holding you
definitely.
back from doing that, right? And I think a lot of it, well, I mean, time, one,
The structure.
and the structure. But like with DMC is probably our largest, right? But when you're talking about your first sergeant, so how many soldiers are in your company?
We have approximately 164 currently assigned. And with that, we definitely have to work on how to be able to affect soldiers more, because we're taking guidance from the top, and we're having to do according to the leadership from multiple levels. So by the time it gets down to the company level, we have task on top of task. And sometimes we don't have the opportunity to make the additional time. And then we also have to consider those soldiers that are in leadership positions that are not actually experienced in not only in their jobs, but just being leaders. So we have a lot of work to do at a company level with young soldiers coming in.
So that is kind of something that and this might lead into maybe our later conversations. But that's one thing when I kind of got at this level, and I realized like stuff doesn't get down to the company level the way that it started up here, right?
Right.
And so
Like the casting call.
right. But then I also said, but those that are putting it out, they know know the skills. They know everything. I was like, but then you get it down to the company level, you're talking about the E4s and E5s that's the doers, but do they know how to utilize the system? Did they get the proper training? So are we doing our due diligence on teaching those young soldiers at that level? Because I hate hearing, oh, well, they should know that. No, that is not, no, we learn from each other, right? And so don't assume that somebody knows something, just, teach them. And if they say, yes, this is what I know, but if there's something else that I'm missing, maybe you can fill in that gap, right? Because there's a huge gap between the division level on down to the company level. And we just need to figure out where that gap is, because a lot of it is that lack of training in our leaders that are doing our everyday things, or our first line. They don't give you a book, right? They don't give me a book for first sergeant or sergeant major saying, hey, you need this access, this access, this. I mean, there's millions of accesses, but then you going to train me on it?
Right. And are we going to have the opportunity to train on it? Like with the Army, it's constantly changing everything. By the time we learn this, it's already changed.
Something
It's
else,
like IPSA getting rolled out, right? And
Oofta.
like no one knew what kind of headache that was going to be, right? But it's been 3 years now since it's been live, and it's just been nothing but, it's hard to submit an award. You got to do buddy pars for everything. Soldiers are leaving. I mean, I think it all just comes down to prioritization.
Yeah. I'm also a 42 Alpha, right? And so I grew up in that world as well. And so my background is I'm all admin, like taking care of soldiers. That was one thing as a 42 Alpha. It's like they don't know my job. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that I had told one of the 42 Alphas that I was working with. And he's like, well, they should know it. And then I looked at him, I said, if I taught you how to do an IV today, mm-hmm. and you didn't do it for a whole year, do you think you can do it?
No, but it used to be a standard.
Right.
That every soldier had to know how to do.
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
But why did we take it away?
Right, yeah. Because that's all they were focusing on was giving an IV, and they weren't actually stopping the bleeding first. So their mindset was they taught me how to put an IV in, so I'm going to put an IV in. And so, but while you're putting an IV in, they're bleeding out. So you got to have that mindset of, you got to stop that bleeding, because otherwise, if you don't, then that IV is doing nothing. Yeah. So, so I was telling this 42 Alpha, I'm like, if I taught you this, would you be able to do it in a year? And he said, probably not. And I said, then why do you expect the soldiers to know what website to go to and how to do it? And he's just like, looked at me dumbfounded. He goes, you're right. I said, I don't know chemical. I don't know, G6s. I don't know all of that. I said, they're the experts, right? I said, but don't assume that everybody knows your job, because we don't. And so then, about a year later, he's like, I really enjoyed your mentorship. He goes, because you taught me a lot of how I had to look at things and how I have to talk with other soldiers. How am I going to teach somebody else basically what I'm doing and why I'm doing it? So I just said, explain the why we're doing it. I said, because the soldiers want to know. Back in the day, we just were told something and we did it. Sure. Yeah. But now the soldiers want to know why, and explaining the why. Absolutely. And you're going to get more bang for your buck by explaining the why first. And they're like, oh, things are still clicking. The light bulb is still clicking in my head. Like, oh, that's why we did that. Oh, that's why, Yeah,
I think it's important to understand why you're doing something. So if a soldier asks me why, I have no problem explaining why, because my way of doing things may be totally different. And if I tell them why we're doing this, they may have a different way of skinning the cat. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, it's different perspectives. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is I may know something, but then I'm like, oh, I'm going to go back. Do I? No, nope. I better go, ask my resource. You're like, hey, did I do this right? And they're like, oh, you missed this. I'm like, oh, shoot. But feel confident. Right. And if you don't know the answer, you definitely got to reach out. Yeah. Because the last thing I want to do is give you the wrong answer.
Absolutely.
It's like, hold on, let me ask something first before I tell you the wrong answer of something. we have soldiers that deploy, right? We don't know what they go through when they're overseas.
Absolutely.
And when they come back, you know, they're a little disconnected. And that's so when we have units that are leaving, it's like, hey, listen, you need to take time for yourself because things didn't change at home. You changed yourself when you're gone.
Yeah.
And so now you have to adapt back into home. So make sure you're not just coming home and then just going to try to go into, you know, the way you left it, a year ago. And so that's the guidance I try to give the soldiers because I've done it 3 times, actually 4 times, and it's hard. So the last time and my husband's like, you do you.
Yeah.
I'll do everything. You just do you. And when you're ready, we're all here. It's like, okay. But before I came home and I just,
So everyone here is deployed with a reserve unit, I'd assume.
Yep.
So I've only known active duty deployments, so I don't really know how it's, because afterwards we always have a reintegration like time period for the active duty.
Mm-hmm.
So they would always be like 2 weeks before you can even go on leave. They make you go through MRT. They make you go through, all these courses again, which I don't know. I just think it's a bunch of death by PowerPoint things. It's not really like answering the mail, because there's people that come back that have been struggling with their marriages or, all that stuff. And they don't really have like the full resources to give them, in my mind. You know what I mean? It's just a couple slides and say, hey, oh, do this. Okay, good luck. Go on leave. And then the next thing you know, soldiers go out and then they didn't reintegrate right with their spouse. And then you start having all these domestic violence issues.
Yep.
So how is it like with the reserve? Like how do we do it differently in that way? Or is it, or do you get
It's
the same
very
things?
similar. Yeah.
It's very similar.
Yeah. We have to take the classes as well.
Okay.
Like you said, is it effective? Honestly, I don't think so either, because I feel like we have it so often that we hear it all the time. You get MRT all the time. But they do provide resources as well, though, to reintegrate you with your family.
Yeah, but
That helps.
it's the family that,
Yes,
and the outside world, because of course they can only prepare you so much. Just doing in classroom training,
Right.
it's not like they're actually able to practice dealing
Mhm.
with the outside world, coping with their families once they get back. That it's not
Right.
until they actually get back
Yep.
in the environment, outside of the mission, outside of the deployment,
Yeah.
and facing all those things that they may or may not have known existed and
Yeah.
how they're coping with it. And the training is supposed to help us
Yeah.
be able to cope. But again, it's only going to prepare us so much.
yeah.
And then they give you the resources, but it's on the soldier, it's on us to actually use it too. So they was like,
Right.
well, hey, if you
Yeah.
got any problems, here's all these resources. And
And I think, when you deploy, you have your Army family, right?
absolutely.
And so when you get back home, you're trying to integrate, and so then now you're talking to your Army family and, hey, I need some help, like, right? Because, and then the spouses or the families are like, hey, listen, we're right here. Why don't you talk to us? It's like, it's hard. It's hard to let go.
Right.
Right.
And then the family is like, oh, you're different now.
Yep.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
deal
I
with
think it's
that?
because you settle in, like, when the spouse leaves to deploy, then that person that's left behind with the child or whatnot, they settle into a routine that, mommy or daddy isn't home. And so they start doing their own thing, right? And that person does their best to communicate, call home and send letters, whatever it is. And then he or she comes back, it's like, oh, we're, like you said, going to be doing the same exact routine that we did before. And it's not,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
you have to adapt that.
It was hard for me the first time. My oldest was 4 and my youngest was 7 months, right? And so, and my husband's like, I didn't sign up for this. And I'm like, oh, yeah, well. But we were stateside, right? So we went to Colorado Springs and then we went down to El Paso, but it turned out to be a 2-year, not a 1.
Right.
And, so here he is raising our 7-month-old and our 4-year-old. And so, so they kind of adapted to dad. And so then when they came to see me, they're like,
They
who
didn't
are
really
you?
know you. Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
And so that hurt me. So, having that interaction and, so it was just one of those things. It's like, okay, but I wish we would have had Facebook and all that stuff,
Right.
or the I want to say Teams, but it's Skype, before, so that way I could see my kids instead of being where we
So
were.
distant.
Yeah. And so even though you talked to them on the phone, that wasn't the same thing.
Right.
And so I think technology has helped us in that way where we can, at least virtually see each other, and because that just kind of gives you a sigh of, oh, they're doing
Yeah.
great, or they look great, or
Right.
nothing's changed. Oh, thank you. Your face is still, you're still beautiful.
Yeah.
Having those words of encouragement, but on a phone, you got nothing,
Yeah,
right?
the
And so,
connection.
so then coming back off of that was like, oofta, now where do I start, right?
Right.
So that was a huge challenge. And then I got, mobilized again 2 years later. And so this time, I'm like, my kids were in school. So I actually got, I don't know if they still have them, disposable cameras.
They do.
So I gave them to the teachers and I said, please take pictures of my kids while I'm gone, because I don't know, I can't be for parent-teacher conferences and things like that. So these are things that, I kind of learned over time, that I want to share too with others. Like, hey, listen, there's get these to your kids, get this, and because we still need gifts overseas too, right? So let's not, we're always trying to still take care of things back at home, because that's what we do, right? We're taking care of ourselves here. We want to take care of back at home. But we still need to make sure that we're sending, those care packages, or a simple hello, a message in Teams saying, "Hey, I got your back," right? Like, be safe over there. And just hearing those words once a month just raises, the sense of, okay, I got purpose.
Yeah. And even after, you return, everyone goes their separate ways. Leaders and, soldiers, they lose contact. And that was the family that we had. That's all we had. And so when you return, it's very important to also try and keep in contact with each other as much as possible, just to be able to be there if ever needed, and, allowing each other to know that, hey, you still have family.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think one of the things, like, with the reserves, right, especially our family readiness. So I was in the unit in Sioux Falls. Well, all of the soldiers were from Sioux Falls area, right? So we had the family readiness, but now everybody is so scattered, so if somebody calls my husband from California, he'd be like, like, oh, how was the earthquake? He's like, we got snow. Like, like, is anybody going to call me when I'm stuck in my driveway in blizzard? Probably not, because they don't know, right? And so I think just we're not centrally located like the Army, right, where you have your family readiness. And some units, you may have those local ones, right? But you're always going to have those onesie twosies that don't feel like, they belong, because they don't have family that's close.
I have a question for you, CSM, but it's kind of geared towards all the NCOs in the room.
Yeah.
Do you think, I have my own opinion, but do you think that we truly empower our NCOs?
I think we can do a lot. We can do a better job.
Is that your final answer?
I think we can do a better job.
agree.
I don't think we empower them enough. No.
I think that a lot of times we take for granted the
Yes.
skill sets that we have among us. And we sometimes shut out what could be. We are not thinking that we can just look to the left and the right, and we have, make up a whole. We're because we don't know what one person, has, what type of skill sets they have.
Sure.
We don't know what they could bring to the table. So we overlook a lot of skill sets.
Yeah.
And we also, of course, have to look at, what are we doing with our time? We bring soldiers in for battle assembly and for different missions. And a lot of times we have one mission, but it doesn't always go as planned. So where are the additional plans that should be in place, the backup plans and the backup training, different things that we could possibly do because there's a whole list of matrix that we're supposed to, or medals that we're supposed to be,
Yep.
training on.
Yes.
And we may plan to train on this one particular medal, but if we look at the list long of medals and we see, okay, while we're working on this medal, we can also be tapping into this one and that one. But a lot of times we're not educating our leaders that are in the platoon sergeant positions and squad leader positions to even know that they are supposed to also be implementing training to get
Yep.
after these medals. What are medals? Do they know that they even exist? And that they know, do they know that they have the capability of coming up with their own plan and training schedules to be able to implement things that will, be able to help train towards those medals? And so
Yeah.
we definitely want to make sure we're educating our soldiers all the way down to the lowest level.
Yeah. No, we're not teaching our leaders to do what they need to do. And I think a lot of it is they need to think outside the box too. We are so generic of got to do this, 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 and this, right? So when you're doing these medal tasks, a lot of them just join right into another. So I think it's just more of educating and leading them in the right direction, and hopefully we can, take care of a lot of that.
CSM, I know that we already kind of dove into just work-life balance and everything. And along with that, we want to also look at just the whole resource management aspect. What are we doing as leaders to ensure that we are properly seeing to, adequate resource management for our soldiers?
So simplifying it is basically, what are we doing as leaders to help our soldiers take on all these missions that we're putting out there for them, right? These extra duties are the ones that all of our deployments, what are we,
Yes.
So both of them?
So we definitely have to, because right now we're playing Army, just trying to get ready, exercising and practicing. When we get out in the real world, we want to make sure,
We have
we look
everything
at both
that-
aspects.
Yeah. So that's a very good question. And, I think that just comes to where we utilize you guys is that you guys can see the big picture, kind of, sort of, like you have the resources. And so how do we break it down to the company level of, because when they say, oh, I need to go to Camp Navajo and I need this, 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 and this, and this, right? You're like, well, did you go out there and resource that? Did you go and just check the barracks? Did you check, or why do you need hotels? We can cut this, right? And so I think it's just a lot of educating. Again, we assume that everybody's doing this, right? And I think we talked about the leadership of, how do we embed this into our younger generations? But for our resources, like I said, we just did a movement, and did we utilize, were there closer units that we could have used prior, but probably not, because that's why we ended up doing it, because we were the closest unit and we were able to fund that. But and I think it's a lot of time and energy for our soldiers to come in and do those special things on top of annual training and then on top of PME, right? And so I think a lot of it is that we are, we're over tasking our young soldiers because, and then we put it on our full-time staff because we can't get the support,
On a full-time basis.
on a full-time basis, right? And so it's a lot of moving parts, and it's just like our mobilization team, right? And we just got a G1, now we're losing him, right? Because we're filling in for another unit. And so it's a lot of, we're not 100%, but we have to aggregate, and we have to figure out how we aggregate. And again, I think we were talking about it earlier about how we want to make sure that everybody's at the table and who to talk to. Yeah. Because if you're looking for a 92 Gulf and they're downrange, I know somebody has one. So then we'd probably go to the MOB team or, say, hey, Where's a 92 Gulf? Or go to the G1. G1, can you pull me a 92 Gulf, right? I think just utilizing our systems within ourselves and then to say, hey, I need one that's closest to Bell. And pulling those, because I think a lot of it is we have these and we can't overtask our soldiers. So we're trying to outsource them to other units to say, hey, do you have soldiers that can help this?
Yes.
Right. So we just need to do a better job at planning ahead so that we can get the resources in a timely fashion and not struggle.
Yes, we do have the option of being able to look outward and try and find the missing pieces, but a lot of times other units are training at the same time, and that it just doesn't come. And so we're sending soldiers still to perform the mission with inadequate, equipment and resources. And so how do we get around that is the question.
So just like I said, follow up and follow through. And that goes to every mission that we do. Check, and recheck all your soldiers. You have a list. Like every company has a list of their soldiers that went on this mission, right? Okay, so did you get to day one? Here's an hour. We're going to set aside. Here's a computer. Here's a CAC in. These are things that we can assist, but we don't know if the soldiers don't tell us, right? But if we did it at a front end, if we just like when we get demobbed, right? We have a system. We have to go from this station to this station to this station. What's stopping us from doing that when we come back off of an AT? Because everybody wants to get home, right? But how do we say, hey, listen, no, before you leave, this is what we need to do. You need to close this out so you can get paid. Right. So I think it's just more on the leaders trying to understand what needs to be done. One, proper planning and having the right people at the right place,
the right time,
and at the table,
Yeah.
And say, okay, G1 or S1, you guys got the orders, you're getting them signed. Now we have to do our DTS. Right. And a lot of them have to fly, like I would have to fly home, and I know, right? So you can do at least 75% of it or even 90% of it. Cause all you're going to do back home is you're going to upload your orders. You're going to get your parking and anything else there is probably 3 little documents, put those in there, submit. Right. So if we can do that at the, when they come back and spend that little time with them, I think we would close that gap tremendously. And it really hurts that you're saying 2 years out that some people haven't been paid.
Yes.
Wow.
It really hurt to find that out myself and then realize that in seeing that I couldn't do anything about it. It's just already too late. They've already lost their card, not only for a first time, but a second time. And now they can no longer be card holders. And they, in times like this, when funding is an issue, we can't always act on it right away and settle their vouchers. And in the meantime, we're hurting soldiers.
Yeah, that is, those are some really good questions. And, those are definitely some areas that we're probably going to, talk offline on this one. And so that way I can, get a little bit of better understanding. And maybe it's a unit or maybe it's a section, right? That's struggling the most. And maybe we just need to do some training. A lot of NCOPD or even OPD at battle assembly saying, I think we went away from all that. To be honest, how hard is it to bring a computer in and say, hey, everybody, even if it's 10 people at a time, to bring them in, walk them through their voucher. I should say, what do you expect from me being fairly new here? What do you want me to help you with and where I can go so we can be successful?
That's a good question. I think just training CSM, going
back to the basics.
Yeah, and ensuring that the TPU sergeant majors, first sergeants, first line leaders are making time to actually get the training for themselves, but also to contribute to those.
I think, we get 39 days, right? 39 days to everything that the active component does. And that makes it very, very difficult for us to hit every benchmark that we need to. And how do we get there? It's literally, you have to be on the point, on the hour, and go, go, go.
Yeah.
You should be exhausted when you leave battle assembly. I know I am, but that's because we have to hit those benchmarks. And if we don't, these warrior tasks, they're part of promotion.
Right.
So if we're not doing them, we're not doing our medal tasks, we're not, but again, we have so many things that we need to cover. How do we prioritize it? And I think that's where we need to get better at, is prioritizing and building a battle rhythm and then go from there. But we have to get into a battle rhythm. If you are like all over the place and you're like, okay, we got to get this done, this done, this done, and you have 10 things, but at the end of the day, you only did 5. Well, that's because you didn't have a battle rhythm, right? And I know, like, during the daytime, it's you get inundated with a lot of things, right? 1, you're going to meetings. 2, you got other people coming in to say something. But I think that if we put a battle rhythm together and say, these are mandatory, so your first 4 hours are this, right? You do need to go out here, and then rotate the teams, right? But we also need to educate the leaders. And I think the biggest part of that is educating our leaders to do that. When we travel places, we can get on a bus and do the training on the bus while we're heading to that destination. Nothing's stopping you, right?
That's a good idea.
Because if you got 2 or 4 hours on a bus, and maybe some people want to sleep, but you're on Army time. And this is where we're going to do our training. So you got to look at, where and when you can do it. Every opportunity is a training moment.
Maximize it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
How can people reach out to you? What's the best way that people can find you so that they can continue to maybe be mentored by you, or, just find out what's going on in the life of Kristy Hawkins?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think I probably have a good record of taking everybody's phone numbers or providing my phone number to a lot of people, but especially within our units. But those that, want to reach out, you can always find me on Facebook. You can Google me, and I'm pretty sure you can find my name, but also I'm on LinkedIn,
Okay.
WhatsApp, all of that. But yeah, and then of course, Kristy.l.hawkins.mil@army.mil. I can definitely answer that email and get back to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if you can't get a hold of me, I'm sure you know somebody that might know me.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of networking, and
Yeah.
so there's a lot of, I love it.
I can attest that you are that individual that will call people back and that you will follow up. So
Yeah.
anybody that thinks, oh no, she's not that person, like, they don't know you.
Yeah.
So
Right.
definitely
Right.
know that you're that person.
Yeah. But on Facebook, it's Kristy Bowen Hawkins, and that's what my Facebook is. So
Awesome.
you find me, just let me know who you are, because I don't do random people. But for the majority of it,
Yeah.
you can just at least message me
Yeah.
on Teams as well. So.
Well, CSM, I think we
Covered everything?
well, not everything. There's always more to be covered, but I do think we covered a lot of ground, and
Absolutely.
maybe in a subsequent episode we'll have to bring you back, because you're going to be here with us for a bit.
Yeah. A couple more years.
At least 3 years total, right?
Cool.
Yeah. So
3 or 4,
depends on deployment,
Depends on deployment, right?
right?
Yeah.
It's coming up.
Yeah. So my tenure's in between there.
Mm.
So it's either I go or I don't go. So that's
You go.
We go. So, I think one thing that's always important is, legacy is a big thing, right? That people want to leave behind. I know that I'll get a chance tomorrow to speak with General Sparks, who, by the way, is, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be able to do this, right? Like he's been a huge supporter of this, and I'm grateful for that. And you too, you're always supporting us and making this happen. But like this is kind of like a small piece of both of your legacies, right?
Yeah.
It's something cool. But you're a new grandma. You have a lot to look forward to. You're still going strong in the Army. What do you want to leave behind when it's all said and done?
I really enjoy taking care of people, right? And it doesn't matter who you are in the Army, on the civilian side, knowing that what I have done has helped others, really just satisfies me, fulfilled my love for, helping people. And that's why I'm always out and about and talking and, tell me about your job and teach, coach, and mentoring, is because I have a lot of knowledge and I want to share it, but I can't, there's just so much in there. I can't do it all in one dump. Right. And so when I talk to people, I'm like, hey, listen, if I'm going to teach you something, I want you to share it with others.
Right.
Because, everybody's like, oh, well, knowledge is power. It's like, no, knowledge is power, but you got to share it. Right? Because you're only empowering yourself. You're not empowering others if you're not sharing that knowledge. And I can't take it all with me.
Yeah.
Like that's just worthless, And so I just want to make sure that that I'm sharing as much as I possibly can with people, in and out of, the military. And, I made this quote before, do your job, right? By Coach Belichick. And so really, if everybody in the Army and even on the civilian side, if everybody did their job, we would win everything that we're doing. I shouldn't have to do somebody else's job, and I think that's a struggle where, some people are like, well, they don't know what to do, but that's for us as leaders. We need to teach them how to do it and how to do it well.
And not do it for them all the
Absolutely.
time. Right, exactly. And this is where we talk about empowerment, right? And so I will do it once, you do it the second time, or we'll do it together the second time, and the third time you're going to do it, right? On my civilian side, I work for the VA, and I do a lot of training on that aspect. And, something came up the other day, and I said, I think we've only told them 6 times. I said, but the 7th time they're going to get it. Because every time, you can say it this many times, but the 7th time they're going to get it.
Right.
And so you may think that you're repeating something. You probably are, but they're going to grasp it the more and more you say it.
Yes.
And so if I'm saying something over and over and over again, that means it might be important.
Right.
Right. And so, and just being there for people and smiling and just having that fun personality, I think is, what motivates me is the soldiers, family. I mean, everything motivates me to continue doing what I do. And so, yes, I'm like, oh, Friday, I gotta get up at, 12:30 California time. I have to get here, but I'm just on the go, and I'll get home at midnight on Sunday night. But it's totally worth it, right? Because seeing everything that we do on a drill weekend is amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
If you sit back and look at it, it is completely amazing what we get done on a drill weekend. Because what we do on drill weekends, it focuses on our 2-week or our missions. And then it all comes out and you're like, wow, we did that a year ago, but we still rocked it out, right? And so, and that's where the soldiers are just, when they leave here with a smile, we know that we did right.
Yeah.
True.
And they want to stay in. They want to continue serving. So I want to leave, my legacy with that. Like, you get past the struggles, right? We know we all have struggles in our lives. But I think just having those special someones that you're able to talk with, and help you over that hurdle, and it'll keep pushing you on. So, and I think that's where I get, a lot of my motivation is from a lot of good mentors, Sergeant Major Walker and Miss Walker, and, I can name so many other different people, but they helped me along the way to get to where I'm at today. So I wouldn't be here without them. And all of y'all.
Ladies, do you have anything for her?
No, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, Sergeant Major. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to serving with you.
Yeah, this is fun because I talked with you a couple times. First I met you, so this was a great opportunity to have this type of venue to talk.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love it.
I agree.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the opportunity and being able to get a little close and personal with the CSM.
Yeah, not many people get 2 hours with someone like that.
Right?
It's pretty cool.
My husband knows that. He knows that I'll pick up a phone and he's like, oh, so that's what I love about, the support that I get at home too. Because again, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to continue doing what I do.
Well, I'll leave the final parting words to you. So if you have anything that you've been eager to get off your chest.
Listen, I have so much to say, right?
Yeah.
And I think we covered a lot of avenues in this forum. We went down a lot of rabbit holes, as I say. But no, this has been a great opportunity, and I love to share, my story along with getting to know some of my soldiers, and the ones that hold it together during the week. I love it because I don't get to have that interaction a lot, and they only hear me on calls. And so having this dialogue has been a blessing. So I really appreciate you and Staff Sergeant K for putting this together and allowing me to do it for a second time.
Second time.
A second time. I love it. I was nervous.
Yeah, you actually did pretty well, I think. The first time you were really, really nervous. This time you were more polished.
That's because you kept asking me a lot of, personal questions.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to get to know you.
You did. You did.
That's all.
You did. We deep dived into how
That's right.
I proposed to my husband.
That is a big one. He's like, I'm the prize.
That's for the next session.
That's for the next one. All right. Well, I appreciate it, ladies. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Hopefully we'll have some of you back here in the future.
Absolutely.
To do it all over again. Or maybe one of you will be our subjects. So
That's awesome.
we'll do. Miss Bobo's like,
I love it.
I don't know if I'm going to do it as first sergeant Bobo or
I served my time.
she did her time. You know what I mean? So, but anyway, thank you very much for your time. CSM, thank you. We'll see you in the morning.
Sounds good. Thank you.